Hey guys, it's Maija. Yeah, I haven't done a podcast in quite some time, and I'll tell you why. My podcast partner came up to me and said the only time I'm going to do a podcast with you is if we're at the Laugh Factory, because the only reason why I'm podcasting with you at all is because I want to get into Laugh Factory. He's accused me of not trying to help him get into Laugh Factory. The hardest part is I've gotten him on stage at the Laugh Factory. You know, they have Long Beach, which is you do Long Beach and you do well in Long Beach and people start to talk, and then I can bring you up to the other part of Long Beach. But twice I got him on stage there and he tanked. I can't help you if you're not going to help yourself. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to talk bad about people, but the truth of the matter is, look, if you are struggling as a comedian and I am a more seasoned comic than you, then ask me for help or accept my help after I offer some help. Sometimes it doesn't mean that you're not funny or I'm funnier than you is. Sometimes it's just a joke. The reason a joke works is sometimes it's just a formula, and the formula is exactly with the timing. And sometimes that's all it is. And if you work with somebody, sometimes they could tweak out your jokes for you or tell you, don't do this joke at this club because they're not going to be impressed by that kind of joke, you know? When you get to the higher up clubs, they have a different level of what they think is interesting or more interesting to let you through and put you on the lineup when there are thousands of comedians trying to get on that stage. So when that comment was made, I realized, you know what? Okay, so I'm tired of letting, as a female comic, I always let people people go, well, they're using you. And I go, well, no. And I try to do the right thing and turn the other cheek. And I don't believe in people being jealous and this and that, because I just never jealous of people, but I don't get it. But after that, I had to learn to get to a better space. So you sometimes need to cut certain people out of your space, especially if they don't respect your space, especially if they also like to do not only misogynistic things, but say things that I find quite racist. And like I said, not everyone's perfect, but in your imperfection, I think that people should listen to each other. And if you don't know something, don't talk about it or ask about it, but don't blab like you're the expert to someone who actually may know more on the topic. And I think that's kind of interesting coming from New York. Because in New York, when you come from a place like New York, they will shut you up. If you don't know what you're talking about, someone will just say, hey, you know what the hell you're talking about. But in California, no one says anything. So you end up with a bunch of people that have no experience in what they talk about, and everyone around them not going to say anything. And I think that just builds a whole ton of relationships that may not be quite healthy for anyone's growth. If I was walking around saying something stupid, God bless all of my friends or family or even enemies that checked me and made me realize I was saying something stupid. And maybe I need to go re-educate myself a little bit. And so to come back on and do my podcast by myself while I'm on the road, which is strange to me because for a while I'm like, I'm going to sit in a room and talk to just a microphone and no one's here. But I feel like that's been on my mind, and I definitely wanted to share that. I've had a really awesome year. I've been on the road since 2 weeks before Christmas. I miss my dog. My dog is at my father's house throwing tantrums because he wants to come back home, and I appreciate that. I got about 2 more weeks on the road, and then I am back at home in California. I'm looking forward to that. It's also been great. I got to go to Puerto Rico. I got to go to Iceland. I got to go to Amsterdam, and I got to go to the coolest place on earth, which is Bruges, Belgium. Let me tell you about Bruges. So, while I was hitting cities, I figured Bruges would probably be the least city because I was going to Paris after Bruges and I just left Amsterdam. Yo, this city is insane. It looks like Willy Wonka. It looks like the little Willy Wonka factory town. It's all Tudor style. They have swans. Now, maybe this is where they got the giant geese from, but these guys have swans. I mean, the swan is so big. You know how like a thick Italian's neck? They had big, thick Italian necks. These things were so big, they were like medium-sized dogs as swans. And I'll tell you what freaked me out. Because I went to the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam before that to go look at the all the amazing paintings that were there, and like the Rembrandts were there and stuff. But they had this one painting of a swan. And the swan looked like it was doing kung fu. You know, it was like one foot was extended and the other wing was up over its head, and the front one was. It was pretty wild. They said it was a swan protecting its young. You know, but then I went and I saw these giant swan, and I wanted to take a closer picture or get some kind of comparison so that when you see the shot, you go, "Oh my gosh, this is the biggest swan you've ever seen in your life." But I didn't want to get too close because I just saw the swan kung fu image. And that kind of freaked me out. And then I was, as a New Yorker, to be talking as much smack as I talk about fearlessness, and there I am scared of a swan, or worse, having cameras rolling around me. They could possibly catch a video of me getting my ass whooped by a swan. So needless to say, I took some far shots of the swans and I moved on. But let me tell you more about Bruges. Not only did every single restaurant have a big sign out front that they were serving mussels and they were serving beer. So they have their Bruges Belgian beer, and because they're on the water, they have like the best mussels in the world. They said between Normandy and Bruges are like the best mussels is what everyone was saying. So I was looking forward to the mussels, because I love mussels and fries. So mussels frites, the mou and frite, they call mou frite or whatever because I want to sound exotic, mou frite. But they had chocolate. They had, it was like every store was the most unique chocolates I've ever seen in my life, in all different shapes, tastes, twists, molds. We walked into a place. And I'll tell you, these two ladies that I hooked up with because we were rolling off on the same tour, and we walked into this chocolate factory, quick, easy way to bond females, a chocolate factory. And we rolled in, and here's the other thing. Who was standing behind me was Steven Tyler. Steven Tyler was even in the same chocolate factory. And he was there with his girlfriend, which I was impressed because the woman he was with wasn't like some young broad. She looked like a beautiful, mature woman. And I was like, I have so much more respect for him now. Even more than the fact that he was in the most unbelievable chocolate store I've ever seen. They had these giant, like 2-foot bricks of chocolate with hammers that they were selling. So you could hammer the chocolate, bring it home, and it was broken into different flavors. They had a chocolate pate. And one of the ladies turned the corner and she found the chocolate liquor section. But it was wild because the place looked like Willy Wonka. So it had like these big, like the kind of bottles with these tubes that would come out of the side. The tubes were like tied onto it and would drop it off into a little sample. So I got to sample all these bizarre, unique flavors of vodkas. Then the guy gives me this caramel vodka. I'm a chocolate person, but the caramel vodka was outrageous. I have never in my life tasted anything like this caramel vodka. Needless to say, I flew home with 2 bottles of caramel vodka. I still haven't been home. I had to stop at my dad's and then go on to the next gig. So I have 2 bottles of freshly made caramel vodka with a little top, that like the little thing that like the little snap top. They made them home. I'm hoping they make it to California. That is going to be, I can't wait to show everybody. These are probably the most outrageous, unique things I've ever tasted. But you go through the streets of Bruges and there's like no cars. Like I saw like 5 cars the whole time. Everything is like horse and buggy. People are happy, just candy everywhere. That to me was one of the most unbelievable places that I visited. I got to go to Paris, which was fantastic, spending some time getting some brie and some baguettes and wandering through Paris. I wished I was there a little bit later. I would have liked to have been there for the Olympics, but it turns out if I was there for the Olympics, because they were setting up for the Olympics, would probably be absolutely impossible to walk through that city. I'm now back in the States. I'm at Atlantic City. I'm at the Borgata this week. It's the strangest thing working casinos, because sometimes you get a show where everybody loves you and they're in a good mood. They want to laugh. Last night was not that show. And I know it wasn't me, because look, I always put myself down. I'm always the first one to blame me for something. I have like emergency, like my iPhone has my favorites, and they're whoever I call to stop me from blaming me. That's how my personality is. So, but this time I think I stepped into it, because I asked one guy, like, why are you sitting over there? Why you look so down? And he said, I lost it all. And I forgot, I'm in a casino. People have lost their savings, and then they go, hey, sorry you lost your savings, but here's a free ticket to a comedy show. Why did you go in there and laugh? And then I got to deal with them. Then they're like, how did comedy end up, being the panacea for people who are stupid enough to gamble away their entire lives? And I'm sorry if you're listening and you are feeling sensitive about the idea of me saying that you're stupid to gamble away your life, and you think it's an insensitive term that I should say, some other sensitive term. No, it's a stupid thing, like I don't get it. I panic when I'm throwing quarters in a machine. If I'm at the quarter slots and I start losing quarters, I keep thinking of all the laundry I could have done with all those quarters all my life. So I'm one of those people. If and then it doesn't make sense to me either, because you're never up enough. Don't get me wrong. I got friends and they're lucky and they win money, but I'm not that person. My father's never been that person. Nobody in my family has ever won anything in a casino. So we go to casinos and eat, because that's our kind of thing. We go to the casino, we eat, we wander around. So I'm looking forward to going back to California. But this trip has also allowed me to stop off and see some family, which was fantastic. Got to go see my mom's relatives, and I think they're at that time, a space in life where they need a visit, especially post-COVID. So that's my other message. If you have some loved ones out there, you should definitely stop through. And if you go like, I'll go see them next time, go see them this time. The amount of energy I think that my family picked up from me, and as much as I picked up from them, I couldn't recommend that more. I'm also dealing with an issue where my uncle is looking to move back to Korea because his wife is Korean, and he's thinking maybe he'll go and spend the rest of his life in Korea. Today, though, Putin showed up in North Korea, the wrong part of Korea. Putin went to North Korea. Of all the beautiful things you can see in South Korea, the food, the culture, the movies, you're going to go to North Korea? Nothing's even there. Do you know what I mean? Like, you got to really be into bombs to want to go to North Korea. You know what I'm saying? You can't even act like that's kind of a half visit. People come over to the U.S. and they get their arms from us, but then they go to see a Broadway show. I went for the culture. They're seen at a museum. They go and they eat at a restaurant there. You know what I mean? Like literally, what are you going to do in North Korea outside to go see bombs? He's just going there for bombs. So, I'm hoping that this visit may deter my uncle and have him stay at home, which, I don't know what's going to happen here. This has the country's turned crazy, I never really judged anybody what their background was, because for me, I started my political following as a libertarian, and then I was a Republican, and then I discovered what my life was really, being a female minority, woman of color, and realized that I was not helping myself the way I was voting. I like to stay independent. I'm not a joiner, but I don't like liars. I don't like gaslighters. I've dated enough gaslighters to see a gaslighter. So I'm just a little, what's bothering me, I think, is that I think January 6th is really bothering me. Before, people liked Trump, and there are people who hated Trump, and Trump was in a weird space, I felt as president, like there are things I completely was like, but January 6th to me was not a peaceful visit. And anyone who's trying to make it as though it's a peaceful visit, or saying, well, he wasn't prosecuted, he wasn't blamed like he was. Well, he's not allowed to be because the Supreme Court is holding it. And you know what? Everybody knows that all of his boys said, come down for a speech. He didn't stand on a street corner and there was nobody there, and all of a sudden a crowd gathered. People traveled. You couldn't get a hotel in the area around the certified the election thing, and all the trailer parks were filled too. Everybody came. Now, I have friends that I love to death. And these have been people who've been saying, what we need to do is overthrow the government, make them all accountable. But I never thought they would do it. Do you know what I mean? And you're talking about making people accountable. That's not how that's like all these people, all of our lives that we've had as fathers and brothers and mothers and people that think that January 6th was okay, have told us that we should be going through life differently. And if anybody tried to do to them what they tried to do on January 6th, they would call the police. Now, the thing that bothers me the most is the guys who defended. Now, let's just say I'm wrong. And I'm open to that. I'm open to the thought that I'm wrong. But let's be open to the thought that I'm completely wrong, and these guys marched through, right? Because they were showing up to visit. They wanted to take pictures of the Capitol, and they all happened to be wearing Trump stuff when they showed up that day, and Trump said, go down there. They didn't realize Trump was going to be speaking. And then they realized when he said, go down to the Capitol, they said, no, go down to the Capitol. But they were going down there because they were selling Gatorade at half price. Regardless, you have to give respect to the people, the police officers, the Capitol Police that defended the Capitol, that put their lives on the line, and some of them died. You can't sit there and say, you cannot do that to these men. And women. I'm finding this so gaslighting and disturbing. Because even if they were there in a peaceful protest and they got out of hand, they should be there. Those were the ones that would put it back, the protesters got out of hand, they put it back in order. But how are you not going to make yourself, if I'm going to make myself not look like I caused it, you don't applaud the people who marched on the Capitol that got out of hand, call them heroes, and talk bad about the Capitol Police and boo them at an event. You just don't do that. That doesn't make sense to me. Someone please write me and tell me that I'm wrong, and why am I wrong? Like I said, people are like, well, the election was a fraud. Well, first of all, they had no evidence of fraud. And second of all, I voted for Bush, and I still believe Gore won. But Bush just showed up before anyone made the decision. He moved his stuff into the White House so fast. And then 9/11 happened. And you know what? Everyone settled down and became Americans again. Regardless of what side you were on, we still became Americans again. When are we going to become Americans again? I literally am hearing Trump say, and his people, it's going to be about revenge, and we need to do nothing but fight the Democrats. Wait a minute. Their job isn't to fight the Democrats, and it's not the Democrats' job to fight the Republicans. It's their job to work for us, to get in there and pass some bills and lower some taxes and make sure our lives are easier. It is not supposed to be we tear each other apart. I've never been I cannot believe, look, I didn't want to wear a mask. But I'm from New York City. I lost friends who died to COVID. I was around people that were living next to these places, these morgues that were filled. This wasn't a lie. Maybe it wasn't the same way for you in Texas. Because I met a guy in Texas after a show, and he's like, "Oh, they forced us to do all this." Yeah, but you weren't in New York. He's like, "Well, this is all invented by the Democrats." Well, then if it was, if it was all like done by Fauci, then why did Italy and all these other countries lose all these people? We weren't the only ones. Americans think that we're the only people on this planet. People all over the world were losing thousands upon tens of thousands of people. And everybody act accordingly of like, well, maybe you put a mask on. You know what? If you think masks are dangerous, then when you go for open heart surgery, you should tell that doctor to take his mask off. So they were talking about, oh, it was abuse to children. That's not child abuse to wear a mask. People sound insane. This is insanity. Like, do you hear yourselves? Do you hear yourselves? Like, I understand you're upset. The inflation happened. I understand when someone says, Trump's good for the economy. Maybe he is. I'm not an economist. But I'll tell you something. The way people are behaving is wrong. The way people are behaving, if they think they're being wrong, it's okay to let what the wrong behavior is go by because it's going to make people some money. You know what? People made money during slavery. Slavery was good for the economy, didn't make it right. That's I think we're in a real scary place, guys. Like, since when is Putin considered a good guy? And Kim Jong-un is a good guy. But our people are terrible. Look, is Biden a little slow? Yeah. Is Biden a little old? Yeah. But most cultures throughout the history of the world would honor those who were the elders. And they would consult the elders. That was the people they spoke to. Because the people who lived the longest knew the most. Do I agree with everything Biden did? No. But Trump is 3 years younger and he's eating McDonald's every day. You can't have, you have two guys that are like, one's 3 years younger, right? And one of them is eating Big Macs every day. Who would you think is going to live the longest? Do you know what I'm saying? If you're eating hamburgers and you're talking smack every day, that's got to wear on your heart. How could you possibly feel good doing that? And maybe that's why he's so grouchy, But I don't think we need to make each other the enemy because we don't agree with each other. And if Biden is is Biden too old? I don't know why Biden would even want to run, because if he's as old, how much work he's doing? You know what? If he's stuttering, I stutter when I gotta edit a video that's got to go on YouTube. I start with You know what I'm saying? The guy is doing a ton of work. It's like, you want this job? Well, you know what? At this point, we can't get anyone else in there. Take a look at the stuff that he's doing. I whether you agree with what he does or doesn't, the fact is, you can't excuse bad behavior. If somebody is doing something that's awful, you can't excuse bad behavior. I don't know where we've gone with changing this because we think it's going to be good for the economy and this whole thing. It reminds me of when Hillary Clinton was running against Trump. They kept saying Russia wants us to sow discord within, the United States so that the whole government would collapse. And that always sounded like blah, 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 blah. Remember when we heard that? I'm starting to feel like that's where we're at. I feel like we're at a point where we're so at each other's throats that we're fighting each other and the government's going to collapse. And that's where we're kind of at. Everybody's at each other, and it's not about us coming together and having a democracy anymore. It's about one side's got to win, the other side's got to win. There's no compromise. I once had a lawsuit, and the lawsuit said, my lawyer said, when both sides aren't happy, then you made a good compromise. There's got to be a little give on either side. We were always that way. Now we're not. And who's the core of all this discord? really, I find like one person is stirring up all this discord. One guy. There's 8 million other people out there. They don't have to act crazy. We don't have to act crazy. There's a lot of choices. There's a lot of us. Yeah, should we have term limits? Yeah. But you would try to tell me crazy Marjorie Taylor Greene is okay? People talk about they don't like Pelosi. I mean, listen to the decorum. What happened to decorum? What happened to human decency? This internet misinformation, I'm upset. And then I got to go on stage and make people laugh. But anyway, I haven't done a podcast in a while, but I felt like just being honest. And maybe I'm not being funny. Maybe I'm getting too political. People are like, you can't talk about politics. But this is what's on my mind. And so I'm going to put this out, whether you guys are mad at me or not. But I just hope if you do anything, and whatever side you're on, just listen to your neighbor, because they're still your neighbor. We're still in this. We're still on the same continent. It doesn't help for us to fight each other. Maybe we should listen to each other talk and make each other's points and find some common ground, because we all have to live with each other. Not be trying to threaten each other and run each other over. And take care, everybody. Thanks for following.